This video contains all 6 of my reviews for the American Girl Kit series. The 6 books were bundled together for Kit Story Collection 1 and Kit Story Collection 2. I don't know what the difference between these two collections is. Like, one has all the books, and the other has all the books. I don't know what the difference is. They seem the same to me. Anyway, this video will serve as a review for those 2 collections. As a bonus, I will include my review for Really Truly Ruthie, which takes place between Kit Book 3 and Kit Book 4. With my introduction out of the way, here are the reviews. Enjoy! Kit Kittredge is an American girl who lives in Cincinnati, Ohio in the year 1934. Kit likes pretending to be a newspaper reporter. She writes articles like, "My brother Charlie eats too much," which you could truthfully say about most teenagers. Argo Font Book Review, Argo Font Book Review. Kit and her best friend Ruthie Smithens go to Mother's garden party. Mrs. Howard says her family has to move because they can't afford to live here anymore. Mother kindly offers to let the Howards stay with them for a while. Dad tries to be happy about the situation, but he seems upset. I'd be upset too if my wife gave us 2 permanent house guests without telling me first. Mrs. Howard is fussy, especially over her sickly son Sterling. Sterling seems nice when Kit talks to him alone. Kit gets a baseball article for him when she accidentally bumps into Mrs. Howard and destroys a valuable cup. This is kind of off topic, but I have a little orphan Annie Ovaltine mug. My kid dropped it, so now the back is cracked and I can't use it anymore. So I totally sympathize with this story of a kid accidentally destroying a cup from the 1930s. Kit gets in big trouble. She complains it's not fair. Charlie sits her down and explains the family has much bigger problems. Dad's car dealership just went out of business. Now Charlie can't go to college, and if they don't get money soon, they will lose their house. Charlie doesn't want to be grim, but sometimes life isn't fair like that. Kit tries to think of ways to save money, and even though Dad has business meetings every day, he can't find a new job. A week later, rich Uncle Hendrik visits the house. He gloats that the Kittredges should have listened to him when he said the car dealership was a bad investment. In order to silence Uncle Hendrik, Mother says they're going to support themselves by taking in boarders. That's actually not a bad idea. It does mean Kit has to give up her bedroom and live in the attic. She's unhappy about that, but she ends up having fun decorating the attic the way she likes it. She makes a different area for each of her main interests. As Mother says, changes can be good, and the entire family will have to work hard to survive the Great Depression. The end. Post-book follow-up. This book was my introduction to the American Girl series. I've heard of these books before. I figured they would be like the Barbie book series, which mainly exists to sell dolls to little girls. I was pleasantly surprised by how good this is. The story's simple yet engaging, the illustrations are fantastic, it does a good job of introducing all of the characters, the educational value's good too. You can tell it was well researched to make it as historically accurate as possible. There's even a section at the end, which is a more in-depth look at life during the 1930s. As a book nerd, I enjoy the fact that Kit loves to read, and she occasionally references books, especially Robin Hood, and some books that I've done reviews for, such as Nancy Drew, A Little Princess, and Heidi. This book is a complete story. It doesn't end on a cliffhanger, but as soon as I finished, I immediately wanted to get the next book in the series and find out what happens next to Kit. I actually changed my schedule for book reviews so I could read the second Kit book sooner. If the other American Girl books are as good as this one, I can see why it is a popular, long-running series. I give Meet Kit, an American Girl, a big thumbs up. I'm not sure when this book takes place. The cover and timeline page say 1934. Page 63 says it's 1932. And on page 24, a character talks as if it's the same month as the 1932 presidential election. So is this book in 1932 or 1934?
Argo Funk Book Review, Argo Funk Book Review.
It's been 3 months since the last book. Mother is on edge because they need more boarders to make ends meet, and they need to fix Charlie's sleeping porch before winter comes. Mother criticizes Kit for not taking her cleaning chores seriously, and she tries using peach slices at breakfast to disguise the fact that they're eating oatmeal again. Dad is in a better mood. He says he gets enough food from his business lunches, so he gives his toast to Sterling. Sterling gets a letter from his father in Chicago, which has $20 inside. Whoa! That's so much money! Mrs. Howard uses half the money to pay her back rent. At school, the class has to put up with a show-off boy named Roger. Kit corrects Roger's mistakes about the first Thanksgiving. She can certainly sympathize with the Indians, who were forced to put up with uninvited guests. Mr. Fisher, the teacher, asks about ways you can help other people. He says the school is having a Thanksgiving food drive for the local soup kitchen. Kit and Roger get into an argument when Roger says unemployed people are all bums who refuse to work. When the class builds a set for the Thanksgiving play, Roger makes fun of Kit and Sterling. First he jokes that they're married, then he says Kit is Sterling's maid. If you ask me, Roger is the real bum here. Sterling tricks Roger into sitting in some glue. Roger starts insulting their fathers. Kit is so mad, she shoves that loudmouth Roger into a ladder. A bucket of white paint accidentally falls on him. I'd give Kit a reward, but Mr. Fisher gives her a mild punishment. He makes Kit and her friends take the food to the soup kitchen. They hand out bread to the many people in line, and Kit is shocked to see her dad. Dad sadly confesses he hasn't had any business meetings in months. He lives on handouts so his family can eat well. He's not the only one with a secret. Sterling confesses his father didn't really send them $20. That letter was a fake. An excuse so his mother could save face over the fact that she can't afford to pay the rent. Dad decides to move to Chicago so the family can take in more boarders. Kit's very upset about this, and she's inspired when she sees a sketch for the treehouse she's planning to build with Ruthie. Dad can stay here and use the treehouse lumber to fix Charlie's sleeping porch. Their gentleman boarder can move in with Charlie, freeing up room for 2 more boarders. That way Dad doesn't have to move to Chicago. And as for Mrs. Howard, she can do maid duties in exchange for paying rent. Kit and Sterling write a fun newspaper which explains her plan. It's a happy Thanksgiving for everyone. The end. Post-book follow-up. I really liked this book. It was very emotional, especially with the double whammy that Dad lied for months and Sterling lied because his father abandoned their family. You can definitely make comparisons between the two fathers, and also Roger's father, who gets mentioned a few times. The supplemental educational material in this book was downright sad. It talked about schools closing, teachers being fired, and a real-life penmanship teacher in Cincinnati who committed suicide. This would be a different book if that teacher had appeared. Kit and the other characters continue to be interesting and realistic. Kit may be a bit of a troublemaker sometimes, but her heart is in the right place. I really hope things work out for this family. It's inspirational how they succeed in their struggles through tough times. Although if I was in a more sarcastic mood, I would complain like, gee, wasn't it super convenient that Ruthie just happened to get the wood to fix all the Kittredge's problems? It's a good book, a good follow-up to the first book, and it makes me want to read the third book in the series. I give Kit Learns a Lesson, a school story, a thumbs up. Kit and Ruthie go to the movies together. Kit likes the newsreel about Amelia Earhart, while Ruthie loves the movie about a woman who dances up a giant wedding cake. That sounds like an awesome movie! I'm disappointed it appears to be a fictional movie made up for this book.
Argo Font Book Review. Argo Font Book Review.
Kit and Ruthie have minor disagreements on the way home. Kit thinks Ruthie's being unrealistic with her make-believe princess games. It's the Great Depression, Ruthie. You're not supposed to be happy. Ruthie wants to do their annual Christmas tradition of going downtown for shopping and a show. Kit knows that's impossible. Her mom doesn't have money for new clothes. If they can get enough money to pay their electric bill this month, it'll be a Christmas miracle. The girls overhear their parents talking. The bank is going to kick the Kittredges out of their house if they don't make a mortgage payment soon. Mother visits her rich Uncle Hendrik. He refuses to give them any money. In fact, he orders them to be his caretaker because he's feeling under the weather. That's the opposite of helping. Kit visits Uncle Hendrik in her mother's place. He says, "I don't want you! Go away!" "Merry Christmas to you too, Uncle Hendrik." Uncle is very mean and fussy. A lot of his orders contradict each other, like, "Move me closer to the fire." Move me farther away from the fire." His dog Inky is just as mean. I wouldn't say Uncle Hendrik is secretly nice, but he's not as terrible as he seems. He gives Kit some nickels so she can ride the streetcar to and from his house. When she accidentally misses the streetcar, she tries giving him his money back, but he refuses to accept it. He's basically giving her free money, and that is kind of nice of him. Kit realizes she can earn 10 cents a day by walking instead of taking the streetcar. Ruthie tries to save their Christmas tradition by having her mom pay for everything and by giving Kit her old dress. Kit tries to explain she'd feel embarrassed and ashamed if she took Ruthie's charity. Ruthie accuses Kit of being selfish, and they have a big argument, which ends with Ruthie refusing to talk to Kit again. As a result, Kit spends most of her Christmas vacation at Uncle Hendrik's. She realizes she can earn more money by doing all the chores that he pays for, like grocery delivery and letter delivery. There's so much snow and sleet on Christmas Eve that Kit cannot walk home. She has to spend the night at Uncle Hendrik's. She can't call her parents because their phone line has been canceled. She calls Ruthie. She apologizes to Ruthie, but Ruthie doesn't respond. That night, Inky insists on sleeping next to Kit. She doesn't like it. I think it's cute. Kit has a happy Christmas when Ruthie and her father come to get them. Kit's typewriter is fixed, Mom gives her a dog pin, and Kit gives Mother all the money she earned this month so they can pay the electric bill. She gives Ruthie a fairy tale story that she wrote, while Ruthie gives her an Amelia Earhart doll. The end. Postbook follow-up. After reading this book, I learned they sold the Amelia Earhart doll as an accessory for the Kit dolls. I'm guessing the same is true for the dog pin and the other Christmas presents and things that got special pictures in this book. It kind of ruins the ending for me to know that I'm reading an advertisement. I thought this book would be like Pollyanna, where Uncle Hendrik is transformed into a genuinely good person thanks to Kit. Nope, he's still a jerk at the end of the book, although he does tone it down because it's Christmas. I thought Kit and Ruthie's fight was well done. I actually agree with both of them. Ruthie is a little childish for her age, and Kit needs to stop rejecting all forms of charity when her family is on the verge of losing their house. Overall, I thought it was a good addition to the series. Kit is a positive role model, and it's nice to see her work hard to make sure everyone has a happy holiday. I give Kit's Surprise, A Christmas Story, a thumbs up. Really Truly Ruthie is a book starring Kit's best friend. I'm kinda sad Ruthie only got one book. I think she could have gotten a full 6-book series like Kit did. This book was written 7 years after Kit's series ended. presumably to coincide with the release of the American Girl Kit movie.
Argo Font Book Review, Argo Font Book Review.
This book takes place right after Kit's surprise, Book 3. It's the day after Christmas. Ruthie and her friend Kit spend the day in Cincinnati with their mothers. It's so much fun that Ruthie wishes it could last forever, like in a fairy tale. As Ruthie's dad said in Book 3, Kit's family is going to lose their house after the holidays if they can't make a mortgage payment. Kit's dad has a plan to come up with the money. He's being paid to drive a couple all the way to Florida. He'll be back in 8 days with the money he needs. Ruthie visits her father at the bank. She spins around in a chair when she sees the eviction notice for the Kittredges. She is shocked to see it's 2 days away. When Ruthie's father said after the holidays, he meant after Christmas, not after New Year's. You really should have been more specific about the date, Mr. Smithens. Your friend is about to lose his house because you're just like, oh, you're losing it sometime soon. Ruthie rushes to tell the Kittredges the bad news. Their only hope for getting enough money on time is to get it from Kit's Aunt Millie. Kit and Ruthie plan to take the train to visit her in person. Kit's older brother Charlie shows up at the train station the next day. He tries telling Ruthie to go home, but it's too late. She already bought round-trip tickets. Charlie insists on coming along as her chaperone. Ruthie thinks to herself, she's tired of being seen as Goofy Ruthie, Kit's silly friend. She wants to be a hero who gets taken seriously for once. That's why she's trying so hard to find Aunt Millie. An old man tells them about a shortcut to Aunt Millie's town, and they catch a ride with 2 teenagers that Ruth shared food with earlier. Charlie warns Ruthie it's too optimistic to trust on the kindness of strangers in a life that's full of disappointment. Charlie's a real bummer, isn't he? I didn't expect that from him. Ruthie says she'd rather be foolish but hopeful than smart but suspicious. Aunt Millie and the rest of her town is having a big holiday party at the church. She takes charge of the situation. She forces the banker to let her get money, even though the bank is closed for the night. The entire town uses lanterns to flag down the night train so Ruthie and Charlie can get back to Ohio on time. When Charlie thanks Ruthie for all her help, she realizes she doesn't want to be a big hero. She just wants to help her friends. And so she asks Charlie and Kit to keep her involvement a secret. The end. Post-book follow-up. I think this book fits well with the Kit books. Book 4 kind of glosses over the story of how the Kittredges got out of mortgage trouble. It's nice to get more information on how that happened, and it's also nice to see Charlie be Ruthie's companion for most of the book. I think he showed up more in this book than all of the Kit books put together. In the text, Really Truly Ruthie has a comma between the words really and truly. The title doesn't keep the comma! I haven't seen a book title ignore commas like that since Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I like how this book has 1932 on the cover because it takes place in 1932. The Kit books that took place in 1932 had a different year on their covers, which totally confused me. Overall, I thought this book was a good addition to the series. It shows there is some depth to Ruthie. Charity and poverty are big themes in Kit's series, and they are explored in this book. It's also nice to see Aunt Millie. Liked her too. I'm sure that fans of the Kit series were pleasantly surprised when this book came out. I give Really Truly Ruthie a thumbs up. This book is labeled as 1934, which can't be right. Last book was December, this one is spring. It should be the next year.
Argo Font Book Review, Argo Font Book Review.
Aunt Millie arrives unexpectedly from Kentucky. She's less of an aunt and more of a grandma because she adopted Dad as a boy. Aunt Millie's a lot of fun. She's energetic, uses the most Jim Dandy expressions, and likes to quote Shakespeare. Aunt Millie lost her job and home when the local mine closed. She's decided to visit her relatives for a while, before moving in with her friend. Aunt Millie wakes Kit up early to collect dandelion greens for salad. She and the boys start a vegetable garden in the yard. Mother is not so sure about growing food where everyone can see it. Aunt Millie can find a use for anything, like making an old flour sack into a dress. She makes clothes and sheets last longer by sewing them in a special way. Kit and her friends are so impressed they make an almanac out of Aunt Millie's frugal ideas. Aunt Millie charms the ragman by giving apples to his horse. She chats with the butcher for a long time in order to get a good discount on food. I'm kind of jealous this works. The stores and restaurants near me never change their prices, no matter how nice I am to the cashier. Aunt Millie shows if you go grocery shopping on Saturday night, you get a large discount on all the food that's about to expire. Kit likes saving money, but she feels embarrassed that everyone in the store knows they're too poor to pay full price. Aunt Millie buys a bunch of chickens, which is kind of rude. She should have asked Mother and Dad first. I'd be really mad if a house guest showed up with livestock for me to take care of. Kit likes selling the chicken eggs, but again, she feels embarrassed when people recognize her. Kit finds a sad-looking dog. The sign on the dog's neck says, "Can't feed her anymore." Kit brings the dog home. The dog runs wild and chases the chickens, utterly ruining Mother's garden party. They ironically name the dog Grace. Aunt Millie shows up at Kit's school, looking kinda silly. She invites all the kids to Kit's penny-pinching birthday party. The other kids laugh so much, Kit's embarrassed. She wishes Aunt Millie had never come. Aunt Millie takes the statement the wrong way and decides to go back home. The Kittredges rush to the train station to stop her from leaving. Aunt Millie decides to stay, after seeing Kit's Waste Not, Want Not almanac. Kit's birthday party is a lot of fun, and the kids like Aunt Millie's penny-pinching lessons best of all. The end. Post-book follow-up. This is basically an Aunt Millie book. No offense to Kit, but Aunt Millie stole the show. It feels more educational than the other books in the series, because Kit's learning a lot of different things. They were interesting things too. It's interesting to see the various ways people saved money and reused items back in 1934. Several of them are good ideas that still work today, almost 100 years later. Others, not so much. I've never heard of a ragman before. I wish there had been more of Mother in this book. Mother was definitely unhappy at certain points because her mother-in-law basically took over the house. I would have liked seeing that subplot get fully fleshed out, although I understand it didn't because Kit is the main character, not Mother. I'd also like to know how Mother married Dad, if she was a rich girl in Cincinnati and he grew up as a poor orphan in Kentucky. Overall, it was a good book. I didn't care much for Grace the dog, but other readers loved her. All the reviews were like, "Grace is amazing! Grace is fantastic! Grace is in like one scene." Calm down, readers. I'm impressed at how every book in this series manages to feel fresh, even though every book has been about the Great Depression and the struggle to survive on as little money as possible. I give Happy Birthday, Kit, a springtime story, a thumbs up. Kit's fifth book is a summer book. That surprised me because books 1 through 3 were October, November, December. Suddenly now it's August and Charlie's been away for 3 months? Talk about a big jump forward in time.
Argo Font Book Review. Argo Font Book Review.
Kit is annoyed she has to do chores instead of fun things. Who is she, Cinderella? A friendly 15-year-old named Texas Will arrives. He's a hobo. He travels all over the country on freight trains looking for work. For example, he offers to help pick the vegetables in exchange for some food. Will is so nice that Aunt Millie gives him a haircut, and the family lets him work a second day. Will talks about how he became a hobo. Sort of like Sterling's father, he ran away from his family to make it easier for them to find food. He demonstrates hobo sign language and talks a little about the jungle. which is the name for the hobo camp near the railroad tracks. Kit and Sterling get permission to visit the jungle and give Will some extra food. Kit is unhappy to learn the hobo camp is worse than she thought it would be. Will chose to be a hobo, but a lot of people didn't choose. Kit is especially sad to see a woman with 3 starving children. Very few people here have proper shoes. A pushy braggart named Lex shows up. He says he'll teach them how to jump onto a moving train. Will isn't so sure, but Kit thinks it'll be an adventure. She has to do it. Sterling insists on coming along. Both Sterling and Kit need help getting inside the moving boxcar. Kit feels great for a moment, but then things go south. Literally, they're going south to Kentucky, not north to Cincinnati. To make things worse, the train stops suddenly, and they're picked up by railroad bulls. Those are armed men who are hired by railroads to catch bums and empty boxcars. They're forcefully pulled out of the train and sent to jail in Spencerville for the night. Kit tries telling the sheriff that she's not a hobo, she actually lives here. The sheriff doesn't believe her, and when he realizes she's a girl, he moves her to a different jail cell. Sterling shows Kit the hobo sign for pretend to be sick, so she fakes stomach pains. The sheriff lets her go to the bathroom, which has a small window. Kit escapes through the window, runs past the guards, and makes it to a railroad bridge. I have to wonder if Sterling knew about the window in the bathroom. He couldn't have known about it because he didn't go to the bathroom himself, but if he didn't know about it, why did he tell Kit to fake being sick? Kit makes the scary and dangerous journey across the bridge in the dark. A narrow catwalk is the only walkway. When a train comes, Kit is forced to lie down and hug the ground so she won't be hurt. Kit rushes home and tells the adults what happened. They go to the jail, where Dad gets Will and Sterling out. Kit tells off the sheriff for being so mean to the poor hobos. Careful, Kit. You probably shouldn't antagonize the angry man who makes questionable arrests. The story ends here. I have a hard time believing that Kit doesn't get in trouble for what she did. She's a 4th grader who got herself and her friend in jail, and her only punishment is a mild lecture on using poor judgment? If I was her dad, she would be grounded until the Great Depression ends. The end. Post-book follow-up. While this is an exciting story, it seems a little out of character for Kit. She makes some bad decisions, because if she had made sensible choices, the story wouldn't have happened. I assume that's why Ruthie was not in this book. No way would Ruthie have gone along with the plan to jump into a moving boxcar. The book tries to justify Kit's bad decisions by emphasizing how bored she is at the start. Like a Disney princess, she complains about how she wants adventure in the great wilds somewhere. I didn't think that was a good enough motivation for her to try the hobo life. That's a far cry from her horror that her dad went to a soup kitchen in book 2. I guess I'm saying it's good she saved the day, but it's bad she ruined the day to begin with. Overall, I'd say this is a good book. I like the educational stuff about hobos, and there's definitely a 1930s Nancy Drew vibe to 1930s Kit facing dangers. I just wish there was a better justification for why Kit got into danger in the first place. I give Kit Saves the Day, a summer story, a thumbs up. I complained that the last book jumped ahead in time too much, but that was only a 3-month jump. This book jumps ahead in time 15 months, which is exactly 2 years after the first book. And yet all the books have 1934 on the cover. I don't get it.
Argo Font Book Review. Argo Font Book Review.
Kit's mother surprises her with a new outfit. It's not really new, it's Dad's old coat, which they refurbished for her. I don't need to check the internet to know they made a doll out of this new outfit. Kit and her friends visit a soup kitchen so they can give her old coat to a child in need. Kit's heart hurts to see so many people in such distress. Mean Uncle Hendrik breaks his ankle and wrist. He comes to live with the family for a while. He spends most of his time bossing Kit around and writing complaint letters to the newspaper. I don't like the president. I don't like hobos. I don't like anything except my dog. A hospital is being turned into a home for transients and unemployed. Uncle Hendrik thinks that's a bad idea, which only encourages hobos to mooch off of others for charity. Kit openly disagrees. She thinks it's a great idea to help other people who are down on their luck. They get into an argument. Kit feels discouraged by Uncle Hendrik's angry words about hope. She gets out her frustrations by writing a letter to the newspaper. It's a proper letter that follows all of Uncle Hendrik's rules. It's direct, signed, and under 250 words. Kit and her friends take pictures at the soup kitchen to go along with her letter. Uncle Hendrik makes a huge fuss when her letter's published in the newspaper. He's mad, while everyone else is proud of Kit. Thousands of people read Kit's letter and see her photos. As a result, there is a large increase in donations to the soup kitchen. The newspaper editor says her letter was so good, he wants to see her write more. The end. Post-book follow-up. I think this book does an adequate job as the finale to the Kit series. It brings in various elements from the previous books, especially book number 3. There are some things that I wish got more resolution, like the story of Dad getting a new job. And Charlie! He said one sentence in this book. I wanted him to get a bigger send-off. Also, Mrs. Howard, she's in the character list for every book, which made me think she would be more important to the series than she actually is. The resolution was heartfelt. You can tell that Kit really cares about other people, and she was affected by how close her family came to being homeless multiple times. You can also feel her love of writing, which makes it very appropriate that she saves the day by writing a newspaper article. In fact, I'd say the main character likes writing was done better here than in some of the Mallory books of the Babysitter's Club series. Some people think Uncle Hendrik was secretly teaching Kit how to write newspaper editorials, but I disagree. He disparaged her pretend newspaper so much, I don't think he had any interest in helping her. Throughout the entire series, I have enjoyed the educational material at the end of each book, which were done by a different author. The educational material here points out that Kit would have been 18 when America entered World War II. It would be cool if adult Kit was in the American Girl Molly books. I know she's not, but that would have been so cool. Overall, I like this book. It does a good job of finishing the series. I like how it's simple and realistic. I'm sure Kit and her family will make it through the Great Depression okay, although there are sure to be many bumps along the way. I give Changes for Kit, a winter story, a thumbs up.